Well, good morning to both our listeners and viewers. You're very welcome to join the show. And in case I forget, there's a little thing called subscribe, a little label beneath the screen. I want you, even you hate this show, I want you to hit subscribe because that way, every time you go to your email, you'll get, stop laughing, my God.
Yeah,
Every time you go to your email, you'll get a little notification that if we have done another one of our stunning shows. Is that
yeah.
enough of the commercial list?
That's enough of the promos. Where
No.
you go now?
Okay, right. We're going to be talking about a number of things. We're going to be talking about the Olympic Games, of course. We're going to be talking maybe about that GAA flag, the Armagh flag. Was it the Armagh flag or was it
Armagh flag, yes, yes,
one
yes.
of the police officers has annoyed a lot of people. What else? Oh yes, this big swap of prisoners between the West and the East, and who knows? We may do other things as well. Anyway, let's start with the first one. The Olympics. You've been watching them, Pat. Are you having a good
Yeah,
time watching them?
yeah. I'm not a big gymnastics fan. I'm really an athletics fan. But I was sitting watching. I was watching the boxing for a wee while yesterday, Jude, and I know that controversy about the Algerian boxer Imman Khalif, I think her name is,
Yeah.
and and Jude, see the initial thing, it was all over the place. And I thought, oh, this is definitely a clear cut case of a transgender man boxing a woman. But I read a fair bit about it since, and it seems this is a lot of it's simply not true. Khalif was boxing this Italian girl, and she stopped after something like 46 seconds, said she'd never been punched so hard, and she was scared for her life and all this sort of stuff. And I sort of at the start believed, oh, this is definitely, no, this is ridiculous. Here's a man fighting a woman. And apparently, Jude, some of the scientists have done a test and said men punch 60% harder than any woman.
Mhm.
So, right, that was putting that wee girl's life without question. If somebody punching you full in the face and they're a hell of a lot more powerful, it's a very unequal contest. Now, that's the background. Here's the thing she said after 46 seconds she walked away and stopped, and she said her Olympic dream was over and it was unfair. But the Khalif apparently was born a woman, is still a woman. What do you call it? They might have some sort of super androgynous sort of thing, male hormones, but that's not her fault. It's a naturally occurring thing.
Mm.
So the whole thing, and there's another one. I think I think Taiwan's, she's called Lin Yu Ting, and apparently she suffers from, or not suffers, has got the same DNA or whatever readings or whatever, genetic readings and all the rest of it. But the point is that here's the bottom line of it all: they are both women. They are not transgender. They are not men.
Yeah.
So some of the people who have been piling on top of them are actually very unfair.
Of course, of course. People they like to see things in black and white. From what I gather, it's something to do with levels of testosterone in the
Testosterone, that's
system,
it
or
exactly.
I don't know, is the DNA or whatever. But they are definitely women. The guy is definitely a woman. But there's some aspects of masculinity in him, or in her. And
Yeah.
that applies to all of us, actually. It's just that
Yeah.
they got out of kilter with
No,
in
but
her
I
case.
thought yesterday when the controversy arose that it was an open and shut case. It's not open
Ah,
and shut. It's far from it.
well, you see, it sounded so open and shut. Well, I've never heard of a boxer packing it in, especially at that level, after two
Yeah,
punches, 31
yeah.
seconds. I've
Aye,
never heard of that before. But obviously, I'd say that the guy who won the fight, or the woman who won the fight, would be clearly is a hard puncher. I would say the levels of testosterone or whatever condition they
yeah,
have is helping them a considerable amount. So
absolutely.
the authorities might need to look at that and see
Yeah.
that fair for the next Olympic Games. Is that fair to everybody?
You see that, and apparently they have done some sort of DNA testing and to keep it on the simple, and the testosterone levels of both these fighters are bordering on male
Yeah.
testosterone levels. Now that is an issue, but
Uh,
the sort of what do you say, the substantive issue is they are both women.
Yeah. Anyway, on a happier note than that, Pat, my wife
Yeah.
just put her head around the door and said Ireland have picked up two more gold medals in the sculls or something.
Oh yeah, brilliant,
Isn't that good?
brilliant.
Well,
Ireland's having a great Olympics too, Jude.
well, I'll tell you there. That guy, the swimmer,
Yeah.
Whiffen, wow,
Muffin.
he really did the business. Have we talked about that
Jude,
before, Pat?
here, I know it didn't. It wasn't part of our agreed Clar, but here's the thing: what do you make of the controversy and the not the controversy, but the what would you say the petty mindedness of a lot of, particularly, I saw a large John Clooney or Kilclooney or what the hell you call him. You know, when people, they've athletes in Northern Ireland, when they have a choice, they go for Britain, and when they fail to go for Britain, then they opt for Ireland. And
Mm.
he was less than generous. In fact, it was really sort of petty. You know, and I see Moore Holmes and Bryson all having to go about the fact that these are Northern Ireland athletes. Like, I'll make a simple observation. When Whiffen won his gold medal, it was he stood for the Iran Naveen. He stood with the tricolour. His parents and all their friends had Ireland on their T-shirts and were standing with tricolours. So I'd love to know where the Northern Ireland or British, but comes under that.
It's called sour grapes. That's what it's called, Pat. Sour
Yeah,
grapes. I heard, well, I think it was Nolan I heard, and they kept on talking about Northern Ireland's doing really well at the
yeah.
Olympics. We've had two people who from Northern Ireland who've got gold medals, and that was true. You see, you can't sort of blot that out. But
No,
to
I'm not
overlook
disputing
the
that.
fact that one of them at least was fighting or doing their stuff under the Irish flag
Yeah,
was a wee bit disingenuous, I think. Tell us this now. Um, I noticed in the swimming last night, I noticed there was an Israeli swimmer.
yeah,
Would you have banned Israel? Because Russia was banned. You know, people
yeah,
forget that. Russia isn't allowed into these games. So Russia's allowed, isn't allowed in, but Israel is. Does that
yeah.
make sense to you?
Not at all, Jude. Jude, I am firmly of the opinion that we're sitting watching the biggest hypocrisy and double standards I have seen in my lifetime, and I am 70 years of age. The Americans and I don't know what. Jude, here's the thing. I firmly believe that Israel is now exempt from all rules, regulations worldwide. They can do what they want and all. And did I read a bit there earlier this morning from a guy, he was an advisor, a former Democrat, who's gone to Trump, and he says, Israel, one of their key things that he thinks Biden is too weak in support of Israel. Jude, Israel at the weekend attacked three different countries. They assassinated a guy they were supposed to be negotiating with. They have bombed Gaza to smithereens. They have bombed hospitals, schools, refugee centres. They have displaced about 300,000 or 400,000 people. At,
Yep,
uh, at,
journalist.
they've killed something like 460 athletes. They've killed a number of journalists, and they're switching people. They're telling people this is a safe area to go. They go there and they bomb it. And just, yeah, there's not a word of condemnation from Washington, or from Westminster, or from mainland Europe. And we're all sitting watching this, Jude. And I'm sort of going like, I met a friend of mine yesterday, and he said, you know, someone, he said, I am actually very depressed and very angry about what's happening in the world. He says, because it seems that, he says, where's the future of humanity if we're sitting watching this? And Jude, final point, I am predicting, I won't live to see it, but my children probably, the rise of China and India and the BRIC countries, because I think America's moral standing has totally, completely, and utterly gone.
Oh yeah, well, well, to a great extent, and certainly in this matter of Israel, it's gone haywire entirely.
Yeah,
We can only hope for better. I'm not sure we will. Kamala Harris is a wee bit less strong on supporting Israel, but not so much that you really
yeah,
notice. They're all
yeah,
scared to step out. Let's leave that question of Israel. I mean, it's outrageous that it
yeah,
was assumed. Oh yeah, naturalist thing in the world. Keep Russia out. Look at what they're doing in
yeah,
Ukraine. No chance. Everybody agrees.
yeah,
And then Israel. We've seen what they've done. Ah, no
yeah,
question of being in. I
yeah.
haven't heard a voice raised to say Israel shouldn't be allowed into the games. Anyway,
No,
they have allowed them. Here's the thing, Pat. We were talking about the difference of testosterone level in those athletes,
yeah,
boxers. What's your stand on drugs, performance enhancing drugs? Would you ban them all?
absolutely, Jude. You know, and I know you might have a different opinion, but definitely. What does they say about Lance Armstrong, who won the Tour de France. He
Mm.
says they were all on drugs. He just had better drugs, and so on. And I remember a couple of, I remember Johnson, what do you call it, Canadian, Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Somebody says, hi, Ben. He says, sure am. But anyway, I remember he won the 100 meters,
Yeah.
years ago against Carl Lewis. I think that was 1984. Jude, if I remember there's a friend of mine. He was years back. He's no longer with us. He was a PE teacher, and he had gone to London, and he had told me he knew several British guys, and he says I remember them as. He refer better. This guy still lives well, not. He says I remember him as tall and thin. And he says I met him about 4 or 5 years later, and he says he was built like a brick shithouse. And he says Pat, that was not natural. He says he definitely had used drugs, and he says that's cheating.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit, I'm thinking it's a bit like the war on drugs. I think it's time we packed it in. And really, what they're saying is we don't want to have performance enhancing drugs. Now, you talk to anybody who knows about cycling and the Tour de France, and
Yeah,
they will tell you every single one of those guys is using drugs of one kind or another to
yeah,
help them. Now, some of them are legal, some of them are illegal, some of them are hidden and illegal, and they can't just haven't got the testing equipment or whatever, or the number of people to do the tests to get these guys banned from
mm,
participating. So I think they should. I tell you what, I think as in everything else, they should simply accept the reality. People are going to be taking drugs. I would have a system in the Olympic Games, and you tell me what you think of this. Everybody take any drugs you want to take, performance enhancing drugs. You want to be the very best, that's fine. You go ahead. But you must tell us what you're taking. And we'll
yeah,
then have a system whereby we'll give handicaps to the guys who have taken the really mainline, as it were, enhancing drugs,
mm,
on down to the minimal enhancing drugs, and on down to the people who are not taking drugs at all, if there's any of those,
yeah,
and give them handicaps in accordance. It would make more sense. We know in our heart and soul that all these guys are doing things that are going to enhance their performance. The question is, do you define it as being a drug or not a drug? There's all sorts of things that they put into their bodies that are,
uh,
people say, oh, that's okay. And there's all sorts of things that people are not sure. And as you say, the guy said, if you weren't caught, that's the key thing. And I would
uh,
say about 70% at least of the athletes we're watching are on some kind of drug. Does
uh,
that you think that's exaggerating?
No, I would say my son, who has a sports science background, eldest son, you know your point about the Tour de France. He
Mm.
says, look, these guys are going up the sides of mountains and, for 3 and 4 hours. He says, try walking up them. And he says, they're cycling. And he says, at the level, and he says, it's nearly inhuman what they're doing. So he firmly believes, but no, Jude, I can't believe you come out with that theory of yours. It's Jesus, it's insane.
Why
Uh,
not? Why?
that's ridiculous. Right, you
Explain,
just
explain.
here. I remember you. I bet you remember this guy, Flojo, Florence Joyner
Oh,
Kersey, I think was
yes,
her name.
yes, yes.
Yes, right. Let me run this by because I am a big athletics fan. She couldn't at 24 years of age or thereabouts. She couldn't make the American team.
Yeah.
She was. I think she made the relay squad, but she didn't make the individuals. She wasn't
Mm.
good enough. Fast forward 4 years later, she's 28, 29. And not only does she won the 100 meters and the 200 meters, she wins them in times that would beat most men.
Mm.
And everybody said her physique had changed. She'd got a sort of a malish chin. Now, here's the other thing. She was dead at 37. And so on. So they said without question that she just wasn't caught. But here's the thing: what about the people who don't want to take drugs? The athletes who don't want to be seen to be, and there are clean athletes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Seb Coe said, I have never taken a drug in my
Yeah.
life. In fact, I was scared shitless when he had illness to take drugs in case it stayed in his system.
Mm.
Steve Ovett was a Steve Cramp. Remember too, this I'm going on about, but remember too, our friend Sonia O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
She was in the Olympics, and three Chinese runners came out of nowhere. One gold, silver, and bronze. I think Sonia came fourth. The three Chinese athletes disappeared, never to be heard of again. And guess who? When they found out, their coach was the East German guy who had been doing drugs for years. So,
Hmm.
Jude, I think it's totally unbalanced to say, just take whatever drugs and fill in a wee form.
Well, I'm just saying, make
That's
it.
not my thinking, by the way, Collins, to come out with a ridiculous thing like that.
You hear me out. Hear me out, Editor McArt. Hear me out. You're describing the situation as it stands. I'm saying change the system. Have people declare what drugs they're taking. And according to the level to which they're capable of enhancing their performance, give them a handicap. So, have people who have less drugs in their system would be, if you take, say it was a 400-meter race.
Dude, they would cheat at that too, Jude. Oh no, I'm not taking steroids. I'm taking
Well,
painkillers
just
or
test for it. You'd
yeah,
have a test, so you would.
yeah.
Test everybody. And I'm saying allow people to take it. If that's their choice, they take it. But we're not going to classify you alongside the
Remember,
person who's taking it.
there was a Canadian snooker player, Bill Werbernick, if I remember his name, and he
Yeah.
used to take these things. He had some sort of shake in his hand, and he used to take these things. He said it was either that or 6 pints of beer. And like basically, it stopped as shakes or whatever it was. And a lot of this what he called it, said basically that was drug taking even at playing snooker.
Yes, we all take drugs all the time. I'll bet you're on medication of some kind, are you?
Blood
Oh,
pressure.
yeah, in other words, you're on performance enhancing drugs.
Bollocks. But I'm
That's
not trying
it.
to cheat at the limits.
You're, you're, you're
Bollocks, like you're
enhancing your
coming out with a
performance in life
ridiculous
with the
argument.
drugs you're taking.
What you're trying to suggest is like, it's basically a league for or a charter for cheats. You're subordinate. I'm surprised at you.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm glad you're surprised anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to hide the fact. I'm saying come out in the open and then adjust the
It
system
would be
accordingly.
totally unworkable, Collins, and you know it.
Hasn't been
You're just
tried. It's like
bullshitting here. You're
Christianity and
saying,
communism. It
hold on,
hasn't been
you're
tried.
saying
That's why it's
something
not
that you
working.
know will never work. Here, let's fill in a sheet. What are you on? I'm on barbiturates, I'm on cocaine, and I'm on heroin, but I'm able to do the Tour de France. Bollocks.
Okay, I can't convert you to it, but I tell you, this is an idea, and its time will come. Its day
No,
will come when they
I'm
wise
saying,
up. There was a time when they didn't
what
allow
about all the
professional
clean? No,
athletes
what
to.
about all the clean people who don't who
Hey,
are interested in sport for its sake, who do not take drugs, who do not want to be? Jude. By the way, have you ever? My youngest wee fella, when he was 10 or 11, loved WWF Worldwide
aye,
Wrestling.
you
He
as
loved
well, yeah.
all these boys were coming on. They're like carpet rolls under their arms.
Yeah.
When they're muscles everywhere. Most of them, by the way, if you check it out, most of those guys were dead by 40, and it was quite obvious they had used steroids, they had massive physiques and all the rest. Why not? I checked out. The British Bulldog was dead at 42. There was some Canadian fellow dead at 47 or something. I remember checking out, and apparently they were all on these steroids and so on.
That,
And basically,
that's a
basically,
choice they make, Pat. They must know the dangers.
yeah,
They must know
yeah,
the dangers. They're entitled if they want to do that. That's fine.
yeah.
I think it's a stupid choice, but that's the choice. Some people would rather have a life filled with fame for 10 years and die at the end of it than live an ordinary life and nobody knows them and no.
What was it? The Spartacus said, "Better to live one day as a lion rather than 1,000 as a lamb," type thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, speaking of drugs, Pat, does the
yeah.
name Michelle Smith ring a bell in your head?
Yes.
30 years, 30 years ago
She is our
exactly.
wee secret. She's never
30,
mentioned. No, no,
30.
she's never invited on the programs. She's never see when they talk about the great Irish heroes. Michelle Smith is omitted.
Well, you can find her on YouTube. Um,
Yeah,
I listened to a podcast
yeah.
on YouTube about her, and there was a photograph of her on the screen all the time the guys were talking. God, she was a beautiful woman.
Oh, she was a lovely
She
girl. She
was.
really was.
And she was highly intelligent. You could hear
Yeah,
they
she's a
played
barrister now.
the clips from the interviews during the
Yeah.
time of the controversy. Um, I was stunned. I remember I was in England and we were coming across in the boat and I was listening to the reports. I was amazing. My God, this girl's just got one, two, three, four medals, three
Uh,
gold, one bronze.
and one silver, one bronze
Unbelievable.
one.
And she
Yeah.
looks so well and she can talk the leg of a donkey. And I'm not actually
And
that
she was
gay.
bilingual as well. She was very
Very
good as
articulate and yes, fluent in Irish language. She's
fluent
got
as Gaeilge.
everything going for her. And they never proved that she was on drugs.
Aye, but hold
She
on, Jude.
still has those medals.
Apparently, the last test she did, and no one knows, but apparently there's more whiskey in it than urine.
Yeah, well,
So
that's it. You see,
but they said that was impossible for the human being. So no one ever proved it anything to do with Michelle, but somebody tampered with it.
you'd conclude with the majority, Pat, would you, that she was taking drugs?
Well, I think the general consensus in the sporting world, and I am not an expert, that what she done was more than a little open to suspicion.
And the fact her husband had been convicted of
Uh,
using performance enhancing.
uh,
It breaks my heart. There's an example of something. I'd far rather buy the fiction than the likely facts because it's a beautiful fairy tale.
oh,
It's
it's brilliant. Like, but by the way,
wonderful.
just here's the other thing. Let's get this on the record. See if the wee girl was totally clean. It's a horrible thing to have happened to her.
Oh, wow. Well, she still denies it to this
No,
day.
exactly. That's the point. That's why I'm making the point
Oh.
that okay, the finger of suspicion is pointed at her, and I've read quite a lot. There, all these guys are saying, no, the pundits saying it's impossible, and that the whatever the samples that we had was sort of diluted to such an extent. They said it was ridiculous and so on, and that somebody had done that and so on,
Hmm.
and the finger again pointed to either her or her husband. But the other side of the story, Jude, just say, and I don't know. Just say she quite legitimately won 3 golds and one was it one silver or one bronze? I can't remember. But
Well,
anyway, say she did it. Wouldn't that be a horrible injustice?
well, yeah, I think the thing that riled people at the time this podcast was reminding us was that the Americans were the people. There was an American athlete who was tipped to win the golds, and
And she met Bill Clinton, and she said she made some remark, and Clinton didn't accept it.
uh,
I think he thought it was bad manners,
uh,
just because you have lost.
that's right. Well, Clinton, and somebody else, was it Tony Blair or someone, got their photograph taken. Oh yeah, it was your man, the Jimmy Carter. They
Uh,
both posed for photographs with Michelle before the controversy broke. Um, and chances are she was taken, but she's a wonderful, talented person because she has since her, in quotation marks, disgrace. Anyway, if you had my system where everybody's allowed to take drugs, she'd have no problems. Um, since then, she has gone in and studied law, become a
she's
barrister, and
a
does
barrister.
specializing in Brexit cases and
Yeah.
similar things like that. I tell you
Uh,
something now,
oh,
if
she's
I
very
were,
bright girl, Jude. She's very bright
I'm
girl.
going to make her my solicitor or my barrister if I'm ever in trouble with the law, that's for sure. And I don't mind what drug she takes before she makes her
Geez,
concluding statements
I
to the
can't
court.
believe you come out with such a ridiculous theory about drug taking.
You
I'm
have to tell
shocked
the
at you.
truth. You've got to
Uh,
lay it on the line. It's like a war against drugs. Forget it.
bollocks. Right.
Okay, let's talk about another bit of madness. The GAA flag. Was it a
Oh,
GAA
Jesus.
flag? Or was
From
it
the sublime to the
flag,
ridiculous.
or was it a tricolour, Pat? Which
What?
is, was it a tricolour, or was it a GAA flag, or was
It
it
was
an
an arm.
anti-flag with
Apparently,
no?
here's my understanding of it. The cops, there was crowds there, and they were driving along, and he had the window open. Somebody handed him an Armagh flag, and he went, waved it. Right, if you want to talk about something so petty, so absurd, that three different the TUV leaders started it. Gavin Robinson came in, and Doug Beattie, who I'm totally surprised at, complained to it. And Jude, I'm going to let you do most of the talk on this one, but a police force that's more than 70% unionist and Protestant, the claim is that they lack impartiality because somebody was handed a flag that he waved for about all of 30 seconds. After, by the way, it wasn't Rangers Celtic. This was a whole community, a whole county, Armagh, wanting a thing down in Dublin. It had got nothing to do with sectarianism. It had got nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do. It was a game of sport, right?
Yeah, see, that's not the way the unionists see it. The unionists see the GAA as being, if you like, nationalist Ireland at
Yeah,
play as distinct from
yeah,
at war, and they really resent it. They really, I'd say many of them are sorry that Armagh won the game. And by
yeah.
God, it was a cracker. I think we agreed on that. It was a cracker of a game.
Cracker game. Well,
The thing is that,
no, hold on. It was a cracker last 15 minutes type thing.
well, it was okay on through it.
Yeah,
I held my attention, I'll tell
the
you.
first half. I watched the first half, Jude. I was thinking of going outside and getting a cigar and getting a glass of wine and just to sort of pass the time.
Well, it wasn't the best football, Pat, but it was still very tense, very tight.
It was tense because it was a nip and tuck the whole way. Yeah,
Aye, aye. Given the fact that Gaelic football and soccer have got to this system of hand passing or
Yeah.
short passing all the time, and the press. Given that fact, it was a terrific game, and it really was.
Jude, I know this is where the purists and all the rest accuse me of being a Philistine, but everybody's see Barcelona there. I'm bored shitless watching. That tic tac
Oh,
passing.
I think that's wonderful, Pat.
Bollocks, Jude. I tell you,
That was beautiful.
see somebody kicking a long ball and two big centre forward, centre half going for it, and and all the rest. This sort of tapping it around each other, and what is Guardiola? Everybody, I think, had to be on the team, had to be about 5'4". You know, it's there's no big men. Right? Okay, it's very effective and it's world class and all the rest. But I got bored shitless watching it.
I can't believe that, Pat. I would get bored with the recycling of the ball and then the press, but
Oh,
I
geez,
wouldn't
that's
get bored
really exciting.
watching Tic Tac. When I saw it first, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was fantastic. Arsene
Yeah.
Wenger brought it to Arsenal,
Arsenal.
and
Yeah.
they really did terrific. Some games, I mean, they were the Invincibles. That Tic
Yeah, that
Tac.
era, yeah.
Nobody beat them at any point in the entire season.
Yeah.
I just thought that was lovely. I thought that was
Uh,
football at its perfection. And I
yeah.
can't understand why. I mean, what it was passing the ball one another and dazzling the opposition, and then getting to a position where you could shoot.
But anyway, let's get back to see this thing. Do you regard? I see Newton Emerson had a thing. Was it this morning in the Irish Times
Yeah.
where and he used the word absurd. I've used the exact same. Jude, somebody waving a flag after Armagh won in All Ireland is in the state of things that are in Northern Ireland in the world today. Do you think it deserves to be dominating a lot of the headlines?
Yes, I think it does because for this reason, it was an act of self-harm by the PSNI. PSNI had an open goal, to change the metaphor, and an open goal for one of the best pieces of PR they could possibly ask
Yeah,
for.
I agree with that.
And they blew, well, they didn't blow it, but the unionist politicians blew it for them. Stupid, stupid, stupid. That's exactly what the PSNI need, is
Mm.
to show they're at one with the community, that they can participate with joy, that when they see it, they can lock into it. That, a couple of occasions like that, and people would forget so many things about the PSNI that they don't like.
Mm.
How or why they were allowed to the unionist politicians were allowed to blow that on them, I do not
Uh,
know.
Jude, and imagine in a community like that, maybe 20 years ago, where the police would have had to go
Yeah,
around in
exactly. And
armored vehicles
our
and
math.
bulletproof vests and all the rest of it. This policeman actually probably did more for community police relations than any
Yeah,
a great brochure or a recruitment driver, whatever the hell else you'd like to
yeah,
say.
yeah.
And yet the unions have just blown it totally. It's so absurd that and by the way, then tried to suggest it was dangerous driving, trying to say there was impartiality. You're going good and merciful. Anyway,
Oh, what can you do with them? What can you do with them? Okay, well, we've talked briefly about the release of prisoners. This
yeah.
big release. Here's a question for you, Pat. Why now? Why now?
I can't answer. I really don't know.
Is it
Like,
maybe it's coincidence? Maybe these things take a lot of set. I guess they do require an awful
uh,
lot of setting up in the first place, because you've got to.
uh,
There was about 7 different nations involved in this, so
yeah,
they had to make
yeah.
sure that all of them were on board, and then they
Yeah.
affected the swap.
Well, the main guy was the Wall Street Journal guy. He sentenced to, was it 15 years about 2 weeks ago or
Quite
3 weeks ago?
long sentence.
And of course, the West always deny that the people the Russians arrest are spies. They always do. And
That's
they're always
exactly the
told me,
point I was going to
uh,
make, Pat. Exactly the point I was going to make.
right, go ahead then.
Well, the fact that all these Russian spies were sending them back home, people that Russia have victimized, decent journalists working for a living, they put them in prison, and now they go, we're going to get them back again. I
Yeah.
mean, does anybody believe that? Does anybody really believe?
The American public does
Oh,
absolutely because they have bought every load of crap. But okay. I watched the BBC guy last night, and he says, "Let's be honest." He says, "What do you call him? Putin feels he's got the better deal." He says, "One of the big guys he got back." He says, "As a convicted assassin, in fact, he was sent out to do somebody." But he
Hmm.
says, most of are acknowledged, so on, as being KGB types. But what do you call him? Gershovich, or is that his name? He was supposed to be working for the Wall Street Journal, and
Yeah.
as a journalist.
Yeah, well, didn't Boris Johnson put his foot in it with regard to some woman that was held in Russia that all she was doing was teaching people something, and
No, but was that Iran? Was it?
was Iran, maybe
Never.
it was Iran,
Uh,
but it
uh,
was clear that the woman was up to something.
uh,
Anyway, again, I think they should just come out and acknowledge it. Your guys are
uh,
going to try to spy on us, and we're going to try to spy on you. If we catch them, we'll put them in jail. If you want to come to a deal, we'll come to a deal.
uh,
Final one, Pat. We have just a few minutes left, and that is: see, did you see this new document that Sinn Féin have come out with about
the housing thing.
housing?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's really, really smart because they've
yeah.
now
Well,
put
it's
down in
different.
black and white what they would do and how it would work and how much it would cost. I think
Yeah,
that's exactly what the public need. And I'm
yeah.
surprised they didn't do it earlier. And they've got the guy who I gather that what's his name? Um, their
One of
spokesman,
Britain.
Ono Bryn. Ono Bryn said, "You've made a terrible mistake." He told the meeting. "You've provided me with a slideshow. You've provided me with an audience. I could go on forever," he said, on this.
Uh,
So it does look pretty good. The one thing that's in contention is that the land on which these houses is built, that land will belong to the state, not
yeah.
to the owner of the house. Now, what's your reaction to that, Pat? Does that
Jude,
appall
I
you?
don't have a problem with that. Sure, years ago, the council, they were called council houses, right? Sinn Féin say they're going to build 50. They can build 50,000 affordable houses within 5 years,
Yeah.
and I think it's costing something like 13.2 billion, about 7 billion of which will come from the exchequer. And the whole idea is that these houses will, because it's government land, the houses will cost 300,000. You couldn't get hardly a shed in Dublin for 300,000 these days,
Pat,
right?
the fact
Go
that
ahead.
the house will, the land on which the house is built will always be the state's.
Yeah.
Is that important?
No, I don't think it's that important. The bigger priority is getting people and to houses.
Okay,
And
here's
and
the
what
question, Pat.
what?
I know, I'm sorry, I'm just rushing it, but
Uh,
is your house, do you own the land on which your house is built?
I presume it, do you?
Well, I'll tell you something. I don't.
Uh,
I don't. In fact, I don't know anybody around here that does. It
yeah,
belongs to some, I don't know, a lord or something. And
yeah.
we pay ground rent every
Ground
year.
rents, yeah,
You should
yeah.
listen, you should listen to my
No,
wife
Jude,
talking about the
I
ground
don't think
rent.
this is a big issue, by the way. And the other thing as well, I presume that the Sinn Féin, if they got into government, are clever enough to say that there's some terms and conditions for resale, but I'm sure resale in a reasonable way. It's not
What
a
that is
Jude,
doing,
the big
Pat,
thing
is,
is 50,000 houses in 5 years. That's what's really the
yeah, if I was in the position these people are in, where they cannot afford a house, no prospect of a house, can't afford to rent. If I had the prospect of getting these houses at these terms, and I
yeah,
was limited in terms of who I could sell to or what rate I could sell at, no problem. I've got
yeah,
a house now, and the fact that the ground under my feet isn't mine, big deal.
yeah,
I try not to think about that.
yeah.
Incidentally, Lough Neagh, did you know that Lough
Loch Ness belongs to the Lord Salisbury or whatever.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's sort of ludicrous. Well, I'm sure it hasn't bothered the fishermen too much, that have been
yeah.
making their livings for so long. Okay, I think we've really put people through the grinder. I think I give,
Uh,
would you give a gold medal or a silver medal or a bronze medal to Sinn Féin for what they've done in terms of housing?
Jude, I think this is a very good idea, and obviously they want to get the focus back on housing rather than immigration. And I like the Fianna Fáil minister. What is he? Darrell O'Brien. He went. He says this is such and such and such. But Jude, this is different thinking. This is different.
Yeah.
And it's something that actually could catch on. And I think it'll go down a bomb, particularly with those under 35. And it's a very good idea. And Jude, I think Sinn Féin and O'Brien and people like that are bright enough to find a way around this sort of land thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure they like. I'd like to see the
That
final deal.
damn thing
The
shouldn't be a
bottom line.
problem, Pat. It shouldn't be a
Problem,
problem.
Jude. No, and by the way, you see a novel they're trying to make out a big resale. What are the terms and conditions? I presume you can resell it somewhere down the line.
But if you sell the house, I mean, what he's saying is we want to keep it in the system.
Yeah.
If you sell it to some guy, who is a private house owner,
Yeah.
then it's out of the system. That's what happened with council housing at the
No,
time of COVID.
but I
Thatcher
would presume
decided
there'll
to
be
sell
some
their bloody
proviso.
houses.
But I presume there'd be some proviso that if you got a house and a subsidised house, the equity being the land, that
Yeah.
you'd have to hold on to it for maybe 5, 10 years before you could
Well,
sell it.
yes.
That's
I
fair
think
enough. I'll look
I
at that.
think a lot of people would be very happy to do just that. Okay, Pat, is
Absolutely.
that your last words of wisdom
That's
for
my
us?
last breath on it.
Okay, go
All the
now and
best.
fix your boiler because I know your house is likely to engulfed in flames at any moment.
As we speak. Good luck, Jude.
Okay, right,
Good
Pat.
luck.
Thanks very
Bye,
much.
Jude. See you
Bye.
later.
Bye.
Bye.